Welcome to The Courage Effect. I'm Suzanne Weller, and this is a show about growth and unleashing what's possible. You will hear inspiring stories about what courage looks like, how we navigate what's getting in our way, and the opportunities that surface when we choose courage over comfort. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Courage Effect. It's great to have you all here. So my guest today is actually a good friend of mine whose name is Troy Livingston. Troy is a natural and long-time organizational leader with broad experience in the areas of community-based public and mental health, science and children's museums, and today he is Chief Strategy Officer and President of W.M. Harper, a branding and advertising agency based in Raleigh, North Carolina. He is known as an inspiring leader, persuasive influencer, and a strategic problem solver who loves to work on his clients' most complex challenges. Troy's vision for himself today at 55 is to find balance, peace, and joy in all things. He lives in Raleigh, but you won't hear an accent, just a heads up on that, where he loves to meditate, write songs on his guitar, and enjoy time with his son Dylan and his daughter Emma. So Troy, welcome to The Courage Effect.
Thanks, Suzanne. It's great to be here.
I asked you to be on the show because you are somebody that I've known for almost 4 years, and over the course of all of our conversations together, you have truly embodied courage in so many ways. And I'm really excited to have this conversation, and I'm really excited for people to get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, you'll hear a little bit more of the courage story today as we talk for sure. But thank you, and thank you for the nice intro as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about you. I'd love for you. I mean, I've given your bio, but I'd love for you to give our audience a little bit more about who you are and what makes you tick.
Well, let's see. I am a person who has felt sort of mission driven, I guess, purpose driven my whole life. My work really matters to me. I started my career in the I thought I was going to be a teacher coming out of college because I wanted to do good in the world, and wound up pretty quickly in Boston. I went to Boston seeking fame and fortune as a rock and roll star, which did not happen. But I learned there. I went to work for the Boston Visiting Nurse Association and learned the power of the nonprofit organization. And that helped to inform the better part of my career as I navigated in and out of life's opportunities and the economy coming and going. But I started there. I started working in that kind of public health kind of realm, I guess is the right way to think of it. And I went from there to working. I went from Boston to Fairbanks, Alaska, where I worked in a community-based mental health care program where I was working with families and children with kids who had complex needs. And that really changed my life too, I was running a school there and thinking about how kids and families succeed best, and recognizing that all of us, in order to succeed, really need to start from a place of strength and build on our strengths to overcome the challenges that are in front of us. And that thinking and that approach has informed everything else that I've done since then. And since Alaska, I've been on a journey that included starting an advertising agency, that included being a management consultant for a while, both in the public and private sectors. And then for the last about 20 years, I was in the museum world, and really enjoyed that role in my community, doing good work, trying to do good work in the community, and advocating for things like diversity, equity, access, and inclusion, which is a big passion of mine. And more recently, I have gone back to the advertising world. I had the opportunity to come to W.M. Harper, as you said in the intro, and work with an old friend of mine, Bill and Rochelle, two friends of mine, coming full circle back to advertising and marketing, one of the places where my career got a start 20 plus years ago. So it's really exciting and fun, and a new bone to be chewing on, and I'm absolutely loving it.
That's great. It's interesting that, well, you've lived in so many different places, which I think is always interesting. And I think that's always a courageous move because you're trying out a new place. And Alaska, that's pretty rugged. So I want to make sure I acknowledge that, especially after you tried to be a rock and roll star in Boston. But I'm curious for you, how do you feel courage has played in that both your professional and your personal journeys?
I think one of the real hallmarks of courage for the people who I admire the most, who I think are the most courageous, are people who don't really think of the things we look at them doing as courageous as actually being courageous at all. It just seems like the thing you have to do. And while it might be scary to do it, like moving across the country to Alaska to a place you've never seen before, and or living in a cabin with no running water, which are two things that I did.
That's pretty courageous.
That's what people would say. But yeah, the so those qualities, the things, the people I see as having the most courage are always people who don't think of what they did as very courageous, just things that they felt compelled to do, overcoming maybe things that in retrospect they can look back and say, wow, maybe that was surprising. I surprised even myself in doing that, but it was necessary. And so that's how I think about courage, being courageous. I don't ever feel like what I'm doing is courageous at the time. I look back on it sometimes and think, wow, if you'd known better, you probably wouldn't have done that.
So what I'm hearing is a combination of doing what you need to do, but then also maybe looking back, doing some reflection also, and thinking, well, maybe I would have done that differently, but maybe giving yourself a little bit of grace at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reflection piece is where you figure out, or where you can acknowledge, maybe that was courageous, but at the time, it's just going headlong into what seems like it needs to get done, and doing it.
Yeah, doing what you got to do.
Yes.
So share a story with us. What's something courageous? I know we've talked about one, if that's what you feel like sharing today.
Well, excuse me. I think, the one that is most present for me right now is this last year has been an enormously a huge moment of personal growth for me. As you know, you've been there with me through the whole thing, and I at the end of December 2021, my wife, my best friend, my partner, Kate, and I were sitting on the couch the day after Christmas, and Kate told me that she was gay and that she needed our marriage to end in order for her to live the life that she needed to live. And in that moment, my entire world came apart in a way that I had no idea that that's what was happening, except that it was a scary moment, and I knew this marriage that I really adored, and this person who I adored and still adore, and I could no longer be married or the best friends that we had been for the 10 previous years. And so all of the things that I associated with my identity as a man, as a husband, were really built around my relationship with Kate. And so I thought of myself as well, I had built an entire world, an entire identity that was around that marriage. And in a moment, it was gone. It had been, I don't know what the right word to use is, but it no longer existed as I imagined it did. And I had built a fairly solid idea that it would be. I expected that Kate was my forever partner, that I would be married to her until one of us, left our bodies. And that wasn't going to happen. And so in order for me to, and so I had to build a new life. I had to figure out what that meant. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, I suppose some people wouldn't respond this way, but I was devastated. I was absolutely gutted, confused, angry at times. And so I think, but I made it through. That's the big thing, is I made it through that, and I made it through by charting a new course and deciding what I wanted in my life and looking to the future. And again, in retrospect, I didn't feel like what I was doing at the time was courageous, but I look at it now and I think I know it did take courage, because there were definitely moments in that journey when the pain was really, really, really big, and I didn't want the pain to continue. And so I had some really dark and troubling thoughts through that process, but I managed to focus on what would come after and the life I wanted to build, and being grateful for what I had, and put one foot in front of the other, and have made it to the other side. And I'm really grateful because I've had a kind of growth and insight and an opportunity to live the rest of my years in a way that I just never would have gotten to without that trauma. And I wouldn't want to go through it. I wouldn't recommend it, but I found a way to use it, and it's been a gift.
Wow. I mean, such a story. I mean, as you said, devastating. And I'm sure also devastating for her because of you both being in that uncharted territory. But then you speak of it being a gift. I'd love to hear more about that. I mean, obviously, you sat in some dark times, as you said, and had some really dark thoughts. But it sounds like you also let yourself be there. So maybe, I know we need to take a quick break. There's never a good time to take a break, but maybe if you want to think a little bit about that and reframing as a gift, because I think that that is what is so incredibly powerful about this experience. All right, we'll be back in a couple. Job search doesn't have to be painful. Wouldn't it be great if you had someone to guide you through your job search or career exploration? Since 2013, Plum Coaching has provided job search, career coaching, resume, and LinkedIn profile expertise to clients around the world. Plum's coaches are former recruiters who have more than 15 years experience in every type of industry. Visit plumseattle.com for details and information on their services. Maybe it's time for a partner like Plum. Start your Wednesday mornings off with a dose of courage. I'm Suzanne Weller. I'm hosting a new show called The Courage Effect. We'll be talking about what courage looks like, how we navigate what's getting in our way, and the opportunities that surface when we step out of our comfort zone. Each week, a new guest will join me to share stories about how they faced their fears, taken risks, and realized amazing things as a result. For more information about me or my show, check out thecourageeffect.com.
No other station delivers this much variety. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back, everybody. This is The Courage Effect. I am Suzanne Weller, and we are having conversations about courage and everything that it opens you up to when you actually step into it. And my guest today is Troy Livingston, and Troy is sharing quite a personal story. And we really want to hear about, or I want to hear about, you talked about your wife coming out to you. It essentially, you were married for 10 years, correct?
Like 7 years. We were together for about 10.
Okay. And the pure shock of it and dealing with this, the devastation, but then coming out onto the other side after you were in it, you said that it was a gift. Talk to us a little bit about how you got to that reframe of really seeing it as a gift.
Well, it didn't happen overnight.
I'm sure it didn't.
That's that's for sure. You know, I one of the things I like to look at is well, gratitude is a huge part of the way I approach life, my life, and it's such a great tool to keep things in perspective. And one of the things that I was looking at is, you know, I don't know, I just started to ask myself questions, and I was thinking, you know, I told Kate on the day she told me, I was happy for her because she could begin with me anyway, starting to live a life in which she was honest with herself and her family and the world. And this is a person who I love, you know, and that wasn't possible before. And it started in that moment, I think, with that appreciation. And then the question became, how do I find that same thing for myself? And part of that was realizing that at 55, you can start your life over. Well, you can't start it over, but you can start anew. You can truly make really important decisions about what you want to bring forward and what you want to leave behind, you know, just like we do with our clients, you know, but it's with your life. And you know, one of the first questions was looking around and thinking about what opportunities do I have at 55 now with all of the experience and work experience, life experience that I can use going forward. And when I think about, you know, when I think about a lot of people who are kind of locked into their lives, kind of maybe not thriving, maybe not loving what they're doing, this pushed me off the ledge, so to speak. You know, I had been kind of locked into some patterns in my life that I never imagined them being disrupted. I thought maybe they would just persist. And what this did was it gave me the freedom. It forced me to embrace the freedom, many times kicking and screaming, to choose some new ways. And so, you know, for me, that's meant things like improving some of my practices around health, starting a meditation, deepening a meditation practice that's been in and out of my life for the last 40 years, and discovering things about myself and the world and what I want for myself in this last chapter that I can't imagine that they would have happened without this push. They could have happened, but it you know, we all need a few really, I think, unexpected and really disruptive moments in our life to push us in ways that we need. So sometimes it's losing a job or the death of someone. In my case, the loss of a relationship that was critical. And as much as they suck, these moments, they can be so transformative and helpful if we let them. And that's really the key, I think, is I've tried to let this work on me in ways that have been helpful and beneficial.
It's really beautiful. I mean, then the whole idea of, yeah, we all get kicked, right? We all get kicked at different points, even if it's not necessarily intended to do that. But you talked about letting go. And I think that's such a huge part of this. And the number of emotions that you have been through during this time, sadness, anger, I mean, I'm sure self-doubt and all these other things came in there. That's a little bit of what I heard. But it sounds like ritual and the practice, your meditation, those are some of the things that have really helped you to let go and to make that choice of what you want for yourself now.
Yeah, one of the real gifts of this time and being the age that I am is having a little bit of wisdom and some perspective about the importance of simplicity in life, and those fundamental building blocks, like a meditation practice and a physical practice, and eating well, eating in ways that support your body and your brain. Having good sleep hygiene. These really basic things. They seem really basic, but it's like each one of those is like going to the gym. It has a cycle. It has a cumulative benefit, like the kind of interest that compounds over time, and these really fundamental habits are so important. And I wouldn't have made it through this incredibly challenging time if I hadn't committed to those, no doubt about it. And the other piece that I do want to mention is the social support piece of it, and you have been a big part of that as I've navigated this. My dear friends, my chosen family, the people who love me, beyond those who were told they have to by birth. But it's because I do need to acknowledge my children, Dylan and Emma, and my mom and my brother, who have been so huge. All of my family, all of those people, my stepdad, Bob, everybody has been so awesome and supportive and kind. And so, yeah, those things, those practices, those people, I couldn't have done this without them.
Yeah. Well, and what really strikes me too is that the strength and the courage that it takes to raise your hand and ask for help. Because I think a lot of the time we're like, I can do this on my own. And especially when we get to 50, it's like, you think, okay, I've been around the block, I can do this. But sometimes raising your hand can be the hardest part. So I want to make sure that you recognize the strength that takes as well.
Yeah, see, that's a good one where you hold up the mirror for me and help me see it. I couldn't have done it any other way, so I just wouldn't have known what to do, but you're right.
So talk to me a little bit about you now. I mean, obviously, like what's next for you as you go into this next chapter of your life?
That's a great question. I'm really excited about this new work role. In some ways, I feel like after the world had conspired to put some really horrible things in front of me, that then pretty shortly thereafter put some really great things in front of me, and one of them is this job working with WM Harper and coming back to advertising, marketing, and brand strategy, which I love so much. That's been really fun working with the people that I've been working with, all of them. It's been such a gift also, and rejuvenating, and I really love it. And at the same time that's going on, I'm reimagining myself as a man, and what does that mean? What will love look like eventually for me? What does friendship look like now? What does dating look like? Oh my God, like somebody who's been in long-term relationships for his entire adulthood, what does that look like now? These are things. So I'm experimenting and figuring that out, and figuring out what is a great life for me, and that's been fun. And maybe the most important thing for me, because I have been in long-term committed relationships, is really embracing the idea that there's this Rumi poem that really inspired me in early days of this, that says, I prayed for a soulmate, and I discovered that I'm the one. And I realized, that's who I have to count on, is me. And I had to learn how to do that and take care of myself and be my own best friend, my own soulmate. And that has been a great journey.
I love that. It starts with you. It also starts with that self-love and that self-compassion.
It does.
Well, I also love that you talk about experimentation, because I think that's one of the things that we tend to not do also as we get older. We tend to get into those grooves, and it's harder for us because the stakes sometimes feel like they're higher, and sometimes they are, but getting comfortable with being pushed, whether or not we're doing it or it's something else.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love to experiment up to a point. I think experimenting is really can be really hard, especially in these arenas. I mean, I'll go there because why not? One of the questions that is driving me right now is what does as a young man, everything I learned, for example, about relating to my partners had to do, it involved potentially making babies. And so rethinking what does that look like for, people my age for whom making babies is no longer actually part of the dance of a romantic relationship. How does that change things? So
Yeah.
I don't even know how to answer that question. I'm just telling you that's one of the experiments that I'm trying to sort my way through right now.
Different goals.
Yeah, and different realities.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for bringing such a personal conversation to the audience. I'm always impressed with what you bring to your life and the choices that you're making now, especially when the cards are feeling like they're stacked against you. But I'd love for you to let our audience know where they can get in touch with you if they'd like to.
Well, thank you. Probably an easy place to do that is just my LinkedIn profile, which is under my name, Troy Livingston, and at the WM Harper Agency. So let me also say, Suzanne, I am couldn't be more excited to be on the show with you, and I want to wish you just absolute gangbusters success with your radio program and podcast. You're going to do great.
Oh, thank you so much, Troy. So wonderful to have you here. Thank you, audience, for being here, and stay courageous, and we'll see you next week.